Hello and good day, welcome to our YouTube channel, God's Promises. And today's video will be Book of 1 Peter, Chapter 4. Let's get started now. The book of 1 Peter is a letter from the Apostle Peter to the Christians scattered throughout Asia Minor. In Chapter 4, Peter continues to encourage his readers to endure suffering and persecution while living a life that honors God. The chapter begins with Peter reminding his readers that Christ suffered in the flesh and that they should be prepared to do the same. He writes, "Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourselves also with the same attitude, because whoever suffers in the body is done with sin." 1 Peter 4 verse 1. Peter is reminding his readers that suffering for the sake of Christ is a part of the Christian life, and they should be prepared to endure it. Peter then goes on to explain that those who have suffered in the flesh have ceased from sin. 1 Peter 4 verse 1. This does not mean that Christians are sinless, but rather that they have turned away from their old way of life and are now living for Christ. Through suffering, Christians are able to identify with Christ's suffering and be purified from sin. Peter then addresses the behavior of his readers, urging them to live according to God's will rather than the sinful desires of the world. He writes, "For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing and detestable idolatry." 1 Peter 4 verse 3. Peter is reminding his readers that they were once living in sin and that they should no longer be controlled by their old desires. Instead, Peter tells his readers to be alert and of sober mind. 1 Peter 4 verse 7, and to love one another deeply. He writes, "Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins." 1 Peter 4 verse 8. Peter is emphasizing the importance of love in the Christian community. By loving one another deeply, Christians are able to overlook each other's faults and show grace and forgiveness. Peter also encourages his readers to use their spiritual gifts to serve one another. He writes, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." 1 Peter 4 verse 10. Peter is reminding his readers that they have been given gifts by God and that they should use those gifts to serve others. By doing so, they are being faithful stewards of God's grace and are bringing glory to Him. Finally, Peter returns to the topic of suffering and persecution. He reminds his readers that they should not be surprised by the trials they are facing, but should instead rejoice in them. He writes, "Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice inasmuch as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when His glory is revealed." 1 Peter 4 verses 12 to 13. Peter is reminding his readers that suffering is a part of the Christian life, but it is not something to be feared. By participating in Christ's suffering, Christians are able to identify with Him and will one day share in His glory. In conclusion, 1 Peter chapter 4 is a reminder that suffering is a part of the Christian life. Peter encourages his readers to endure suffering and persecution while living a life that honors God. He reminds them to love one another deeply, to use their spiritual gifts to serve others, and to rejoice in the trials they face. Through it all, Peter is pointing his readers to the hope they have in Christ and the glory they will one day share with Him. Thank you for visiting us today. Please share with us your favorite Bible chapter below in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really does help our channel grow. Looking forward to see you back here for our next video. Always take good care.